the numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me in Dead Bug Studio is
Coach Nez.
Visit us on Facebook at the Nothing Shocking Podcast community fan page, or we also have the Quad Cities Rock and Roll Junkies interest group. Our Twitter handle is NoShockPod. You can find the podcast at zpnetwork.com as well as zoixonline.com, and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all your other podcatchers. What am I forgetting? Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. Our sponsors:
Ragged Records, Davenport, Iowa, and also Rock Island, Illinois. New and used. We also have Legends Guitar Picks out of Milan, Illinois, and RockstarPicks.rocks out of Queens, New York.
Our guest this week is Doug Pinnick.
Legendary bass player, lead singer.
King's X, KXM.
Trace Mountains.
And he's got, I mean, this was a fun, the amount of time, I mean, we just got off the phone with a pretty quick interview. It was neat to have someone like this, someone we both look up to and respect, give us the time he gave us. And he just, I don't know, it was a fun interview if I remember right. I mean, we did it a while ago.
It's been a while ago because of all the other things that have been going on.
But, I mean, he had some, I mean, the reason KXM doesn't tour, he had some funny reasons for that. And he didn't hide behind anything. I really enjoyed the interview. I really enjoyed him taking the time and being as open and I don't know, fun as he was.
It was a good, really good interview.
Yeah, and King's X.
They have a new album coming out?
A new album coming out, but also the most underrated band probably of all time in terms of, I mean, I think he even says that on the show. If I
by
remember
far.
Right.
By far.
Yeah.
And he said they play like 3 to 4 times a month. They play live. He said, we play live about 3 to 4 times a month just to keep fresh and pay the bills.
Yeah, they don't tour like they used to. And he's a lot older than I thought. I didn't realize he was as old as he was.
Yeah.
I think he even gives his age on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's a legendary musician, bassist.
And he has friends from our area, if you remember. He said back when he lived in Joliet, he would make the pilgrimage to the Quad Cities to check out the scene here when he was in his youthful days. So that's cool. I mean, Joliet, then he went to Texas, and that's where King's X formed in Texas. And now he's out in L.A., I believe. So,
yeah. Before we get to the interview, I want to mention the Chicago Open Air Festival is coming to Bridgeview, Illinois, May 18th and 19th at SeatGeek Stadium, headlined by System of a Down and Tool, and also Ghost, The Prodigies there, Gojira, In This Moment, Code Orange, Meshuggah, Beartooth, among others. I went 2 years ago when they came, and it was a fantastic weekend. 2 nights. Hopefully we're there as well this year. I don't know. You looking forward to this one at all, or you still up in the air?
I'm still kind of up in the air. You know me.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 days is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I just to go up there to do the whole 2 nights or 2 days
for 2.5 bands or something.
Yeah,
like
2.5 bands, and I'm old, and grouchy, get tired easy, go to bed early.
Yeah, it's I still love it, although I will admit that I went from the pit area to the VIP section in the middle of last year's show just because
I remember that you saying that. Yeah.
It was it's a lot of work. Those kids these days. I mean, I was up. I think it was the day Kiss played. It was Kiss, then Rob Zombie, then Megadeth, Anthrax, and a bunch of bands before that. Metal Church, I think.
That last year was a great lineup.
And that whole day was great, and all of a sudden Anthrax hit the stage, and I was getting my ass kicked from then until Kiss started. And by the time Kiss started, everybody was old and just watching Kiss.
Right.
But it was intense, and in a way it was fun, but then the next day I was not going to do that again with Godsmack and Korn. It was just, I'm going to watch this from the VIP section.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I'm old. But yeah, I think we should pick a couple bands here and there to talk about in these intros going forward. I'll start with In This Moment. That's one I'm most familiar with recently. I just saw them a couple weeks ago. They're going to go out and tour with Seven Dust this spring.
Yeah.
That's a great lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually seen them the other way around, where Seven Dust headlined and In This Moment was opening. So it's cool to see them making the move. I've seen In This Moment several times, way back when they were a baby band on like the Mayhem Fest. And it's really neat to see them evolve their sound from this kind of hardcore metal band to really their own thing. There's a little bit of new metal in there, but she also has her own little style. They're a very visual band.
Kind of proggy now a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's kind of, in a way, you're mixing like Madonna with Metallica and Korn. It's a weird combination, or Marilyn Manson maybe. I don't know. It's a weird amalgam. Combination of styles that I find to be really neat, and when they released the Blood album, it's like they found their lane and their sound, and they just expanded on that, and it's just kind of neat to see a band discover themselves and then take off. And I don't know if you know much about them when that happened. Everybody in the band quit except for Maria and the guitar player, whose name Chris. Everybody quit to join like one of the American Idol kids.
Sure.
James Durbin, his band. They all quit to go there. And they brought in, session people and new guys, and then just blew up and are bigger than they've ever been. And then they're getting close to that arena level. They're right now at the big clubs. So it's really cool to see. And, playing before Tool and Gojira and Prodigy, that's a great spot for them. And I look forward to hopefully seeing them again this year.
That'd be very cool. Just an FYI for our listeners or any of the past guests that we've had. Last night I told you the story about my phone.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing some research. I always do a little research on possible guests that we might have just to read. And last night my wife, Monday night, watches that ridiculous Bachelor, and whatever it's called, The Bachelor. And that's a good time for me to do some reading and just catching up on some things. And I was on my cell phone, and my cell phone was 4 years old, and it probably should have been, turned in 2 years ago, but I liked it. I didn't really want to get rid of it because I knew the ins and outs of it. And it went black on me last night, and I took it just directly to the cell phone store last night at 7:30, see if they could save it, and I lost all of my contacts, nothing shocking contacts from past guests that we've had that I've kind of kept in contact with to see if they would like to come back on the show or do intros with us, which we have done. And I've lost everybody. So if you are a listener and you have my number,
text him right now, everybody.
Text me your number so I can have you back in my contacts again. I don't know how much of our past guests, some do listen to the show. I've lost all of our Nothing Shocking contacts. All of them.
Well, they're all in the email somewhere.
Buried
in email and in Facebook. And so, as you need them, you'll be able to find them, but it'll be a pain.
Or if you just want to do me a favor and just say...
that would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Yeah.
But we'll survive. It's not going to be a fun...
That was the Nothing Shocking podcast lifeline to myself. You know what I mean?
That was your deleting an episode on accident. If you want to. Which I did that a few years ago. All right. Well, let's get to our interview with Doug Pinnick. I can't wait for you to hear it, so go listen to it.
Good night.
Hello.
Hey, Doug. Is that you?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Eric Nesbitt with the Nothing Shocking podcast. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Bob Zerl.
How are you?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Okay. There's something on this phone, something about they're charging me 23 cents a minute or something, or is there something I missed? Because they don't charge, Skype doesn't charge anybody.
They shouldn't charge anything.
I've done this many times.
Especially since I'm calling. Do you have a dollar sign up in the corner? Are you on your phone or are you on the computer?
Yes, I'm on my phone. On my iPhone. Just a heart in the bottom corner.
Do you have money on your Skype account or no?
No, I don't.
Then you should be fine. It would just end if it was charging you.
Yeah, that's weird.
Cool, because I don't have any credit card or anything on it. So.
Oh, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because
I'm pretty screwy about these things because every time I get on a phone or on my computer, there's some kind of something I miss because I'm dyslexic. So just making sure.
No, I mean I can tell you a funny story before we even get started. I had to call Chris Squire way back when, and he was in England at the time, and I had to put money on my Skype account.
Oh.
And he had pulled into the driveway. He's like, "All right, hold on, give me a couple minutes to get settled." I just sat and watched the dollar amount just count down.
Oh no!
15 minutes later, he came back, but it was amazing.
That's funny.
Well, hey, I want to thank you so much for the correspondence and committing yourself to doing this on this podcast. We're really excited to have you, and so it's just kind of ironic today. I was on break at work, and I was scrolling through my social media, and you had posted that today is the 28th anniversary of Faith, Hope, and Love, the King's X third album. I guess there's just a couple things to go with that. Number one, that makes me feel really old, knowing that it was already.
Me too.
And I guess I get. 28 years ago, it was a incredibly strong release from the band. You guys got quite a bit of MTV coverage on that album as far as video goes. What made that album, as far as the writing process, different than Gretchen Goes to Nebraska or Out of a Silent Planet?
We actually didn't do anything different. We just did what we did. We had no idea, really. As far as I'm concerned, this is my least favorite record. And it still blows my mind that people say how much it changed their lives and how much they play it every day. I played it today just because of the anniversary. And while I'm just, working at my desk and stuff. And I thought, well, it wasn't that bad, I guess. But it's like, it's funny how people, music, I don't know about anybody else, but me being a musician, when you ask me what I think about my art, I just go, well, that's like looking at myself in the mirror. I don't know. I have no clue, What I think is totally nothing what other people think, And the things that I hate about what I do are usually the things that people love. So I just walk away shaking my head and I just go, well, just stop worrying about it and just do what you do. And, Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you hear artists talk about, they just like to look forward, and the albums they did were just a moment in time, and that's where they were at that moment. Is that at what point do you start? You said it was your least favorite. Is that something when you're done, you're just like, or is it later on down the line that you're just like?
Yeah, usually right after it comes out, it's like I'm happy with it for a moment because I've lived with it for a month and I've beat my head against the wall. And then I start listening to it and I'm going, I wish I could fix this and change that and do this and that. And you can't. So pretty much I don't listen to anything that I do after it's released, because at that point, there's nothing you can do but let people listen to it, because I can't enjoy it, because I want to go back and change things and fix things.
Well, as a kid, as a teenage kid, I remember when Out of a Silent Planet came out. My neighbor across the alley from me, he was always a guy that would blare this music out of his bedroom windows as we were playing basketball in our alley or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love it.
And it was. And the thing about Out of a Silent Planet for me was, he was a Led Zeppelin guy, an Aerosmith guy, and the King's X sound was so way different than listen to an Aerosmith or a Led Zeppelin or anything like that time. You guys had such a unique sound as far as just the makeup of what you guys brought to the table off that album. And the thing that kind of blew me away was they would put the Shot of Love video on the Headbangers Ball. And I thought, what in the world is this song doing on Headbangers Ball? I guess, was that one of those kind of things, like, did you mind that song, that video?
We hated it. We hated it. Dude, we were never a metal band. but Megaforce, Megaforce, that was their contact. So we came out of the box in the metal genre, and when you come out in the metal genre, you're never forgiven, especially in the 80s and 90s. It's just you're a metal band, and they put you in the corner. If they had put a video on 120 minutes, we would have sold records. I guarantee that. Every band that they put on 120 minutes always did good, or at least got more exposure. And, like Bam Magazine and Rolling Stone and magazines like that always liked those kind of bands that were in that sort of a category. We were not accepted. That's why you didn't see us on the front cover of Bam Magazine or what was the other one? And Rolling Stone, the biggies that I always wished we were in, we weren't. And that's why, we were never accepted as a valid band. We're just that metal band with a bunch of harmonies. I still hear it. But, it was weird, too, because I'm going, why are they putting us on Headbangers Ball next to Metallica? I'm going, we're not like that.
Absolutely.
Did you feel pressure from the labels to change your style at all, or they?
Oh no, not at all. They never. If there was pressure, our manager wouldn't let us know it. I mean, we were hell bent on doing what we wanted to from the beginning. We've always been that way. We, to a fault, even. We don't want to hear what anybody says, even if it's going to help us. And so yeah, that's we never ever had that problem. We were called out several times after the fact. It's like when we did Over My Head, they sent us a message that says, why is it that every time you write a song that we could put on the radio, you put something in it that screws it all up? And that's what we did, because radio is 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And, instead of doing Over My Head just a straight song, we had to put a double lead in it and a choir at the end. Way too much, But we never thought about selling music. We're artists, and we made art. And the thing is if you want to sell your art to the masses, you have to bend your art for the masses, and that's something that we. We tried, to be honest with you. Ear Candy record. Every song on that record, I think, between all of us putting our heads together, tried to make those songs as commercial as they could that could be played on the radio. Looking for Love or Run or, Last Time Around the World. Mississippi Moon, geez. I thought that whole record, okay, this is full of hits. They got to take it and run with it, and nothing. So I go, okay, well, I'll give up. And I write for me. I don't care. You got to write for yourself, and people ain't. If you don't write for yourself, people ain't gonna like it. I'm a realist. I want to be real, and I want people to love my music because it's real, not because I'm trying to write a hit song.
Hindsight being 2020, it seems like you guys have developed this huge audience, or maybe huge isn't the right word, but a very loyal and diehard audience that does following you around. And is that almost more rewarding than having than being a band as big as Metallica? In a different genre, but.
Well, at the end of the day, it is because I've been around a lot of those bands that are super, super rock stars, and I know them, they're my friends. And in the early days, I was jealous because I just wanted to have a lot of money. They had money. They can do whatever they wanted to, and I'm starving to death or can't pay my bills and selling basses. And, I'm not going to call them up and say, hey, can you loan me some money? Even though they could give me $100,000 in a second and write it off. But it's not, we don't do that. They earn that money. That's theirs. I don't, if that's the case, you got to give money to everybody, so I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, now I look at it and go, I like my life. I can walk down the street. I can go out and be a legend instead of a rock star, which is two different things to me, because I'm just that guy. I'm like Lemmy, I hang out and people go, oh, there's Doug. And they love what I do, and they talk to me about it. But there's no bodyguards, there's no crazy people chasing after me, and there's not a lot of people wanting me to help them out monetarily. A lot of people that my family thinks I'm rich, and they don't believe I'm not. But other than that, Yeah, I like it now better. And the thing too is, I noticed that the drama that a lot of people have gone through because they've had a lot of money, and I don't know if I don't know. I'm not there, so I don't know if I could choose or not. But where I'm at now, I'm happy. I mean, I can't say happy. This is where I'm at, and I'm content, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Because I'm the man who I am, and the people that I'm around and the things that I do wouldn't be that way if there was something different happen. Maybe I'd be an asshole stuck in a house someplace, can't go nowhere, seriously, I feel bad for a lot of those people. Can't even just go to the store and buy some food,
Right.
At what point did you kind of notice that? I mean, you guys are often referred to as like the most underrated band of, in rock music.
I would agree.
But at what point did you start noticing that respect from other artists? Because I mean, you'll see a list on like.
Here's the deal: we got respect from day one. Back when we got together in 1980 in Springfield, Missouri, when we started, we just got a hold of a couple of the local bands that were, drawing crowds, and we asked if we could open for them, and they go, sure, no big deal. There's a lot of local bands in Springfield, Missouri, and every time we opened for anybody, the bands, not the crowd goes, oh, that's nice, but the bands themselves would come up with their jaws on the ground going, oh my God, they didn't want to play after us. And that's always the way it's been. Musicians just love us, but everybody else, I don't get it.
I guess this would kind of lead into the next question is that,
sure.
Your King's X has always been, noted as having the very unique sound. Your albums are very distinctive. You're different than everybody else, and but yet the live performance, what the band brings in a live performance is unlike anything else. And I guess when you put those two together, a lot of bands have a hard time maintaining or being able to accomplish both, being able to put out the album and play or perform the way that you guys do. What are your thoughts on all that? With I know that technology has a lot to do with it when it's creating an album, but where are your thoughts at on all that?
I think you're right about that because, like, take a band called Clutch. Those guys are amazing. Hit song after hit. And they're kind of like us, sort of a cult type band. I don't know. It's sort of like what. How do you put it? There are people that play music and there are people that listen to music. They're two different types of people.
Right.
And if you play for the people that only listen to the music, then you got to make music that they want to listen to. And that is something familiar. Say, for instance, when Pearl Jam came out and everybody got into Eddie Vedder's voice. Well, all of a sudden, that's the familiar voice for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, and every singer came out with that gravelly kind of voice. Or 10 years before that was glam rock. So what did everybody sound like? Either Poison or no Guns N' Roses or the singers did that. So it seemed like you got to make something that's familiar with those people who aren't digging down into it. They're real immediate. And a voice is the thing that a listener hears more than anything. Is because when you talk, our ears are tuned into the talking, and that's the thing about that. But in an artistic band or a band that's trying to create art, we're doing all kinds of stuff that distracts the average listener from that voice. And if the voice ain't really loud, or if the voice ain't really saying something that gets you involved, they're not going to pay attention, and they're not going to listen to the music. And musicians are different. I know people like a band just because they love the drummer, and that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that, you've built up such this loyal audience that really you guys could just exist forever, pop up, do a tour whenever you want and not have to, worry about, you were never that flash in the pan, so you never had to. Yeah. Do you kind of feel that building the audience the way you did has allowed for your longevity? It's
helped. The good thing is, because we have a cult following, they always come see us wherever we go. If we play too much, they don't come out.
Right.
we have to stagger it. But I make a living. I mean, we do maybe 2 or 3 weekends usually 2 weekends to 1 weekend a month, which is 3 or 4 gigs. And it's just enough for me to pay all my bills. and it works. If we do more than that, promoters don't want to bring us in because we have to get paid. And if it's not enough money, we're not going to do it because we got to pay the road crew and everything, So we charge average prices, and a lot of promoters don't want to pay it because they think that people are not going to show up. And our fans, King's X fans, don't buy tickets in advance usually. They just show up, and places are packed all the time. But the promoter will come up and go, "I only sold 50 tickets, man. I'm freaking out." We go, "Don't worry." And they always show up. But a lot of promoters are still afraid, so they won't do it. Who knows what goes on up in that world. But I would love to play more, but it just seems like we can't get more gigs.
Well, I'm going to ask you a tough question now. So I've been reading all kinds of, and I'm a big one to read clickbait and everything else, but I keep on stumbling across the rumor that King's X is going to be releasing something new really soon.
We've put that out. Golden Robot Records signed us, and we're good to go. So we're working on who's going to produce it, where we're going to make it at, and everything else, and then we'll have a date. But next year we should have a record out sometime.
When it comes to I guess when it comes to recording. With all this new technology now, we have artists that come on the program all the time that their philosophies on recording new material is hey, I love doing it. I can do it in my house. I can do it in my pajamas or whatever. Other artists are firmly still against that. They want to get in the studio and do it the old-fashioned way and record. And I guess. With you've been involved with so many things throughout the years. Where are you at with technology opposed to doing things the old-fashioned way?
Well, I personally like the new way because I get bored real quick. The old King's X records, it took us a month to do them, and by the time we got to the end of the 4th week, I didn't care. I stopped paying attention, and I just wanted to go home. And as a result of it, I look back at those records and go, "Oh man, I should have fought for this, or I should have went back and had them, do this." But I just let it go because I didn't feel like dealing with it anymore. And that's the way I am. When I'm done with something, I'm done with it. But with nowadays, what I love about it, like the KXM record, we finished it. I don't have any lyrics. I didn't have any lyrics or vocals for it. I went home and played the record for a month. And finally, I got lyrics, and if I don't like the lyrics, I can go back and fix them, or I can go back and change them. It's in the middle of the night, if I come up with this chorus and I think it's good, I can get up and do it with no charge, and I have state-of-the-art equipment at home. I can make records here, so I have no problem with that. I think that it's a preference. Everybody has a different preference. I think anyone says that only one way is the best way, they can kiss my ass. But because it's all about, it's not how you make the music, it's the end result. If I faxed a record in with 4 other guys and it was amazing, then hey, we did a good job. And it ain't got nothing to do with digits or tape. You can make it work. I mean, we rely on too much of technology or old technology to make us feel better about things. But the bottom line is, if somebody gives you a piece of clay and one clay is a little harder to manipulate than the other, you still make art from it, and you can still make great art from it. So the way I look at it is, however you do it, it's the end result.
Well, yeah, I agree completely. I've always asked, I like to ask artists if, do you think Pink Floyd could be Pink Floyd with today's technology, or the Beatles, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the truth
is, God. No, they probably wouldn't. It'd be a different Pink Floyd. That's the thing I love about it, is this is a different era, and people don't listen to music the same anymore. It's obvious. I mean, they're done with a song in 2 minutes. You hand a CD to somebody and they go, "What do I do with that?" And don't give me a CD. What am I going to do with it? Either give me a download or, it's just everything has changed. And us old folks are trying to hang on to the old way because that's what we knew. And that's how we created our art. Nowadays, there's a whole new way to do it, and kids don't listen that way anymore. They don't do it that way anymore, and their brains don't think that way anymore. I mean, most kids nowadays can play every instrument royally. I mean, I'm seeing these kids up on YouTube, 6 years old, playing bass like Jocko. And it's like it's a whole nother world out there, and us old folks just need to get over it. I mean, I remember when I was younger. In my teens and in my early 20s, I would take like the Allman Brothers over to my uncle's house, and he'd go, "That's not blues," and he'd put on B.B. King. He said, "Yeah, I need to listen to this. That ain't the stuff." And I'm going, "Well, I like it." Or I'd bring Johnny Winter over or something, and play it for him. This is in the 70s, and they'd get all over me. "Man, you need to listen to Kenny Burrell, some jazz or something." And they always did that. And so we hated their music because they hated our music. And the way I look at it now is embrace the young people's music. It's their thing. It's the way they do it. And we have to let it be and let it go. And stop. I mean, I'm not saying you're complaining, but I just know so many people in my age bracket that just complains, "Oh, music sucks now. Pop music sucks, blah, blah, blah." And I'm going, well, it sucks to you. But there's still kids out there buying records and they're selling millions. And what do we do? I don't relate to it. I don't even know what kids are thinking now. When I write lyrics, I'm, 68 years old. So, I'm writing lyrics about a 68-year-old man, and, 16-year-old kid ain't going to relate to it. Or they will if it's, if I can make it real and make it something that's common. Everybody has the same feelings. We all get depressed. We all get happy. We all want sex. And, there's things that we can sing about. But at the end of the day, there is a gap. And I think we're creating it more than them. Yeah. Well, a lot of young kids come to see King's X play, and they will say, "Man," I go, "Why you guys come see us? Because you're the real deal." So there's still those sponges out there. Me, you. There's a whole army of those youngins that are going to carry this on, and they're going to carry it on underground, like it's gone. Rock music has kind of gone underground, and like jazz did, and blues, and I think it's going to be that way. I used to say rock is dead. I'm not going to say that. I think rock has gone underground now because we're old.
Well, yeah, I know.
Does that make sense? I mean, I
totally
sound
makes sense.
morbid about it, but that's because I'm getting old now, and I'm thinking about old and how much time I got left and all my possessions and what do they mean and what's important to me. So, that's why I'm babbling about that. I'm in the middle of it right now. It just hit me that I'm like almost 70, and statistic-wise, most people live to 75. My aunt made it to 100. I went to her party last week, and my family lives way longer, so I believe I'm going to be around a long time. But those are the thoughts on my mind now of how can I create art from my point of view that people can relate to.
Do you think that rock and roll keeps us younger? I mean, I asked that because there's this picture going around with like Sammy Hagar at 71 and Bill Clinton at 71, and they look like 20 years apart.
Yeah, I think it does because rock music keeps you, keeps your mind young, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Going out, jumping around, playing, doing what you love, and people loving what you do, that ain't going to make you old. Going to work every day, 9 to 5, doing something you don't want to do, living in a situation that you don't want to be in or with someone that you don't want to be with but you're stuck with, and waking up every morning 9 to 5, going to work, the stress of trying to pay your bills, the kids, the whole deal, that makes you old. Stress makes you look old. And Bill Clinton was a president. So, I mean, look at Obama. God, right. Obama looked like me when he went in, and now he looks like he's 100. It's stress. It is. And think about this, too. Look at people that only got 1 or 2 kids and look at people that got a lot more kids. Right. They look older. It's the stress. It's all about the whole thing. And I've never been married and never had kids or anything like that. I have no responsibilities, and I've never had to really be responsible for anyone and have that stress of I don't have enough money to pay the electricity and my kid is going to freeze. Right. I don't have those problems, and I'm just waking up to the fact of that reality and going, wow, that has a lot to do with it, and you lose something too. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have someone that I connected with, and so to do all this, I gave up a lot, and if you don't give it up, it gets taken from you anyway. I mean, I don't know very few musicians I know that are still married and the kids don't hate them. You know, and so you do. I mean, because we give our hearts to this 100%. You know, I mean, there's, you know, the kids graduating and you're in the studio because there's $100 million on stake. You know,
right?
I think about that stuff. You know, or I remember I was talking to Robert Trujillo from Metallica one time, and I was telling him how much I loved the EP that came out before the second to last record. I forgot the name of it. It only had 4 or 5 songs. And it was like, yeah. And I said to him, I says, dude, why did you not put those on the regular album? And he said, well, there was a discrepancy in the lyrics from the handlers because they weren't sure that the Metallica fans would like the lyrics. And I thought to myself, oh, yeah, you guys have a payroll that's in $300,000-$400,000 a month. You got to make money to pay your people. Right. And I'm thinking, I don't want that kind of life. I want to wake up today and if the record company says, I don't like this song, I go, well, fuck you. We won't put it out. I don't need you. You know? It's that's the difference between being a superstar. It becomes a job again, too, you know. Remember that record that Doobie Brothers put out called What We Once Viced Has Now Become Habit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way it is. It's like the more you do it, it'll bite you if you don't keep your mind in the right place.
Absolutely. You know, I want to kind of change direction with you a little bit.
Sure,
because, you know,
I'll keep going about that.
Well, this is really important because this is something I really wanted to touch upon is that,
Good.
You know, you have always been involved with so many projects and, you know, you've done solo albums and so many different, I don't know. I don't know if you saying projects is the right thing to say.
I call them projects.
Do you? Okay. Well, because, you know, while, you know, you had two KXM albums came out not too long ago.
Third one's done.
It's okay. So that's great to hear. I'm excited already. You know, and I guess maybe the most favorite project you've been a part of has been the Pinnick, Gales in Prison 2 albums that you did with those guys. I guess when it comes to when you're involved with so much, what, you know, is it still King's X is still the priority, and these other things are important for you to get your creative juices out? Is that how you kind of put it?
No, King's X has always been priority, but King's X doesn't do much. My guys just don't do a lot. You know, it's been 12 years since we put a record out. I've been pushing to put a record out for the last 10 years. I've got 30 new songs. Plus, you know, I just finished my Grinder Blues, my blues band, and KXM. And it's like, I just keep writing. It keeps coming, but I got to do something with them, you know. And King's X is just not going to do it. And so a lot of people were saying, well, Doug is doing all this stuff. He's taking away from King's X. And I always tell them, I go, as soon as King's X shouts anything, I'm there. I've always been the first one. I'm the first one to answer the emails when we get them from our manager, and I'm the first one to say yes if it makes sense. I'm the one, you know. I don't have a problem with that. And the thing too is that, you know, people think that it takes a long time to make a record, but you can make a record in a couple of weeks now with the technology that we have. So the rest of the time, I'm either wanting to do gigs or I'm sitting here online dealing with social media in my career, which seems like 90% of what I do now is social media in career and, you know, just advertising and just, I guess, hustling, you know, because we don't have the big record companies anymore. We don't have the big money. We don't have an MTV. We don't have anything. So it's like it's in our hands, and it's a lot of work. I miss just having a week or two to do nothing and just sit in front of my Pro Tools and write music like I used to do in the days. I could lock myself away for a couple of weeks and talk to nobody and write music. Now I get up in the morning and the first email I answer, by the time I get done, it's 4 PM and I don't have any inspiration, you know. I'm sitting there looking at myself today going, dude, you ain't got nothing done again, you know. Now, a couple people came by and another friend, and a couple issues popped up that you know, I always call it like it's like having kids that they need your attention for a minute, and then you got to stop what you're doing. And that's my whole life, basically, is all these little things that I do need my attention. It keeps me going. I don't know where we went to this, but okay, I'm babbling again. And I'm not even smoking weed yet.
I absolutely love KXM and the stuff you guys have done. Have you guys ever
Thank
played
you.
a gig, and do you think Korn will ever take a big enough break to play a
Well,
tour?
Korn will never take a big enough break to play. That's where I've resided. All of us want to tour. We've been offered mad money to play. I mean, I just sit there and go, you got to be kidding me. This is like I could put some money away for my burial, you know. But Ray's just, that Korn thing is just rolling. That thing is rolling, and Ray said the boys in the band spend so much money they got to tour.
Yeah. Well,
Not Ray. Ray's pretty cool. Ray hustles and he does great. But the rest of the guys, Ray said, their overheads are just ridiculous. And I mean, Feely with all his cars and he was telling me Murky won't stay in any hotel unless it's a 10-star. He won't stay in a 9-star.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like that's what happens when you get all that money and you can do whatever you want to. And I think that's why I'm lucky to not have that. Then I wouldn't have those options, because if you got money, why not? What else are you gonna do with it?
Right.
Seriously, if you can afford it, do it. I have no problem with it. I've never had a problem with people spending lots of money, even because I have a lot of problems with myself when I spend money. And every time I spend a large amount of money, I get in my car driving home going, I just spent $2,000 on this like interface or something.
Right.
I'm going, but, and then I stop and go, dude, you owe nobody no money. You earned this. You paid for it. What do you think somebody's on you for? And I always think about that because I know so many people that are broke and so many people that don't have money and friends that are struggling. And, I would say a portion of all my money I just send money to friends who need money. I do that a lot in my family too. It's like, I'm a single person, so I can do whatever I want to. Like I said, I don't have a lot of money, but if my mom calls me up and says, I couldn't pay my electric bill this month, I'll go, here, I'll write that check out immediately, and I do it for my brothers and sisters and relatives and stuff when they can't pay their rent and stuff. Everybody's struggling. But sometimes I feel guilty when I buy myself stuff, knowing that other people, you just spent $200 on this. You could send your brother $50. He probably would appreciate it right now because he's just paid all his bills and now he ain't got no money. And I just, I feel like I want to save the world. That's why I'm glad I'm not rich. I think about that a lot. I do. This almost $1 billion of lottery. I thought, what if you won that, Doug? I go, I would spend the rest of my life giving it away.
Right.
What else is there to do with it? What else? I've done everything I've wanted to do. I've been most places where I've always wanted to go, except for I want to go to Egypt and see the pyramids, and I'm going to go to South America and see the pyramids and stuff like that. I would love to do that and see the Wall of China, and I'm going to do that soon, actually. But other than that, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Buy 10 cars and I'm going to die tomorrow. What happens? And that's why I look at life now. Life is so important when it comes to people in the moment. That's the most important thing to me. And somebody told me one time, they said, the greatest thing you can do is to make someone happy. And I thought, this person said this to me about 6 months ago. And that changed my complete way of thinking. As much as that's what I want to do, but it made sense. It was sort of like it put words in my brain.
I guess the thing is that you were raised in is that right, in Joliet, Illinois? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not too far from you. We're on the Quad Cities, Rock Island, Moline, about 2 hours.
Oh yeah, I used to drive up there and visit friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Our social economic structure in the Quad Cities has changed quite drastically. It's probably, when it comes to low income is raised quite a bit. I don't know, if do you still make it back to Joliet? Do you still have family in Joliet? Or,
yeah, I go home. I go home a lot. My aunt's 100-year anniversary was 2 weeks ago, and I just flew home for that.
I guess how is the whole life in Joliet? Has it changed since you've lived there as far as a social economic class?
It's the same exactly, maybe worse. Most people are gone anyway, but here's a good thing. My mother lives in a black section of town, and we call it the ghetto. It's not bad, but it's still, poor income, low income black families. And the projects were like 5 blocks away, and there was shootings, and people were always getting killed. And every time I drove down the street, a policeman would pull me over or somebody over. And 3 of my brothers were always in jail, so policemen were at our house all the time. So they had it out for us anyway. But it was a gang-related area. And I went home last week or a couple weeks ago to my aunt's birthday party, and I was riding down the street with my cousin, and I said, kind of quiet around the neighborhood now. And he says, yeah, all the thugs and all the kids they grew up and left. He said they all went to the south side of Chicago. And I went, oh, so that's where they went now. They're all killing each other up there. And but I noticed that, it was different. I'd walk down the street and there was not a policeman riding down the road anymore. And I can go to any neighborhood and walk down the street and a policeman pulls me over, except a black neighborhood. It's always been that way, so I'm used to it. But things have changed, and it's really different now. It's not as crazy there.
I guess
so.
Go ahead.
And the city's built itself up in some ways too, going west.
Yes, they have. I guess we've had a lot of artists that have been based out of Chicago, and we have a lot of artists that have come on that they've been based out of New York or what have you, and they've stressed to us, especially like in New York, how the rock scene has kind of diminished in New York because of the clubs have gone away, the CBGBs and what have you. As far as Chicago rock and roll goes, as far as a scene, is the scene in Chicago still a viable rock and roll scene, or is it a dying thing like in New York?
Honestly, I never knew there was a scene in Chicago. I left it in '79. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, if there was one, I didn't know about it. I mean, I remember Cheap Trick playing around some. I remember Styx and Chicago Transit Authority. I mean, we were real proud of them because they're from Chicago. But as for like a place to go or a strip to go where everybody's hanging out and playing, I never found one. If there was one, I missed it. And now I don't know, because every time I go home now, I really don't see anything there. I see a lot of musicians struggling to get recognized and no places to play, to be seen, and nobody's coming there to sign them. I don't see any difference, really.
Well, it's in here in the Quad Cities, we're really limited now as far as venue goes, as far as club. We have a couple, now, and trying to get maybe any type of international recording artists to come in there, it is a stretch because now it's I guess the dawning of the internet and everything else. People just don't come out to shows like they used to. Does that resonate to now where you're at in California? Even though the Strip, I'm going down to Whiskey Tonight to the Ultimate Jam Night. And there's still a lot of activity going down there, but nothing like it used to be. I hear Nashville is ridiculous. Yeah,
I hear Nashville on weekend. The streets it's like Austin.
Would you ever kind of see yourself migrating that way? We've had Chuck Garrick of the Alice Cooper Band on. He lives in Nashville now. Do you ever see yourself relocating to connect with the scene?
No, because everybody I talk to that moved there says they hate it and they want to move back. They said it's just turned into superficial. You can't get a gig. There's so many songwriters that nobody can get work. Everybody's desperate. And, like one of my buddies said he needed, he's a drummer. He's a great drummer. And some guy comes up and says, hey, man, can you play on my demo or my session? And he goes, well, how much can you pay me? And he says, oh, I don't have any money. But he said, well, how much you charge? He said, well, can I get about $50? He said, well, that guy over there, he'll do it for $25. And he'll just go to the next guy. I mean, I always said that to people. I go, everybody's running to Nashville. Well, the only thing you're running to Nashville for is to buy a house that's a lot cheaper than living in L.A., and that's good. You can save so much money if you're already established and you got money. then you go there. I mean, people sell their house here for $1 million and go buy a $200,000 house, the same size and with probably more stuff in it in Nashville. So that's what they're doing. And if you talk to some of those people, they live out in the country. They don't go in the city. They don't hang out like the LA scene is. You know, they're not doing that, and they're too old. I'm almost 70 years old. There's no need for me to, go down there. I'm not 21. I'm not going out every night, hanging out, partying, and going to see bands and stuff. I'm just not going to do that anymore. So, as far as I'm concerned, LA's still the end of the world to me. This is where everything's happening. This is where you can find whatever you're looking for if you look.
Fantastic. We're kind of running out of our allotted time. You have been.
Sorry.
You have been no, not at all. You've been very gracious with your time. We want to thank you so much for your participation.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I guess before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like to promote or plug before we let you go?
Well, check out my Hendrix tribute CD. It's called Often Imitated But Never Duplicated. It's Doug Pinnick's tribute to Jimi Hendrix. New KXM is almost done. We're mixing it right now. And King's X going to do a new record. Let me see what. Grander Blues, my blues band. Our record's done and we're getting signed. Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing until it's official, but we're getting it. And that's our second record, so it'll be out. And Bruce Franklin from Trouble, we wrote a couple songs for the next Supershine record. And what else is going on? Jeez.
A lot.
And my Doug pedal, DPX3, the bass pedal, it's selling real good, and people are like really loving it. And a few staggering rock stars are using it, so I'm really excited about that. And so life is good. Life is what you make it.
Fantastic. Well, this is how it's going to work. We're about 5 episodes behind, and so we will have this out ready about 5 weeks. You say, Bob?
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take 5 weeks. And when it's out, I will message you and I'll send you the link, and we will ask you to share it to wherever you possibly can, because we'll share it to all
I will post that motherfucker all over the place.
Well, fantastic. And like I said, if you have anything else that comes up that you want to promote or plug, call me, text me, email me, whatever you want, and we will gladly have you back on whenever you want back on.
Okay, and keep in touch. Let me know what's going on.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.